Yeah, welcome back to another episode of Over the Glass. I'm your host, Ness.
And I am Jay.
And what a week. We have so much to talk about. I feel like last week was more like a month's worth of news and things.
An emotional roller coaster.
A roller coaster.
and avoiding gaslighting ourselves.
Yeah. Do you want to go ahead and start us off with the hot topic of the week?
Yeah, so I'm sure everyone's well aware of... Okay, let's start out with the good thing and how it should have happened is that we should have been able to come onto this pod today and just dive right into the men and the women of the U.S. coming home with the gold medal. And we are going to talk about the women's side of that. But unfortunately, we spent far too much of our time and energy having to deal with how the men decided to go about their win and how they decided to celebrate and all that stuff that came from that. And then despite all of that, we're like, well, at least we'll still have Connor's story at SNL, only for that to get kind of commandeered with the win from the Olympics and went right back into an emotional roller coaster of like, great, are we going to be able to enjoy it? But all that said and done, SNL, for the most part, was a ton of fun. Connor's story hit it right out of the park. He had a number of his castmates and the producers from Heated Rivalry come out to cheer him on. Hudson did make an appearance in one of the skits. Supposedly there were two skits that he was in, but I think at the final rehearsal, they cut one of them and whatever. But I just loved every bit of it. Connor's hilarious. And yeah, so as you probably know, in his monologue, he brought on several members of the U.S. men's and women's teams. And Coach Jackie J on Instagram kind of said it best. So I think we should just show that part of how she reacted to the SNL monologue to get us going.
All right.
Hockey players got on SNL compared to the men. But I want to talk about something else I feel like we're not talking about with this whole thing. Which, by the way, was awesome. Like, I'm obsessed with the way that they had the guys come out first, so that when the woman came out, it could be, like, that much better. But the line that I feel like we're not talking about enough is Connor saying, I hope some hockey players watched it. And that's when they come out and say, don't worry, we watched your show. Because, of course, the two guys who were so excited to get a phone call from the president didn't watch Heated Rivalry, didn't watch the queer hockey show. Meanwhile, not only did Hilary Knight watch Heated Rivalry, she made like 3 videos about it. She was like vlogging the experience of watching Heated Rivalry.
I keep hearing about Heated Rivalry. I watched Heated Rivalry. I binged it. Yeah, it was awesome. I loved it. I think visibility is so important. I felt really seen in many ways. Thank you for sparking the conversations. Yeah, it's been a minute since I watched something that sort of evoked a full range of emotions.
Like, she literally said, thank you. Thank you for making this show. And as a queer icon who got engaged to her Olympian fiance at the Olympics, she gets it. And writing it in such a way that makes it clear that these two losers didn't tune in, didn't give the time of day to the thing that made their sport so popular is so good. And like having them do this whole bit before, like laughing, like, yeah, your show's about hockey, right? We didn't watch it because we thought it wasn't about hockey. Gay show, we didn't watch it because we're men. Ha ha ha. And like people like kind of like half laughing, and then have the women come out and be like, we loved it. Like, it's so perfect. Anyway, watch women's hockey. I love women's sports.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah, like leading up to the SNL thing and getting the news that from what I saw initially, it was going to be Quinn Hughes that was going to show up. And then they said, oh, Jack's showing up too. And it's like, wonderful. Just make it extra better by having these two dumbasses, come on. And I had concern about like, this is Connor Story's moment. And it just feels like it's getting hijacked for like some PR recovery, because this whole week has just been like if you open up any form of social media and you're following hockey, or not even if you follow hockey, but I was having conversations with some folks at work who don't really follow hockey, and we were talking about something completely different, and then they brought that up to talk to me about it, and I'm like, okay, I can see this is like hitting airwaves outside of these spaces that we occupy. But I mean, kudos to SNL for putting together that monologue that highlights these amazing women, takes jabs at the men's hockey team, and ultimately, if you bother to look at the reactions of Jack and Quinn Hughes, I personally was just eye rolling every time that they had any sort of airtime. There's nothing going on in their heads. They're literally that Homer gif where you see the inside of his brain, and it's just the monkey with the symbols. It's just clapping away, have no idea. You don't even, like, do you even register that they're making fun of you? And at the end of the day, you're probably not going to understand the greater context of all of that.
Yeah, I think when they came out, if they felt really awkward and stiff, and they're just reading their lines or whatever. And then when the women came out, they felt a lot more comfortable in front of the camera saying their lines. And I just love that the crowd cheered a lot louder and longer for the women than they did for the men because of what happened this week. So do we get into it or what?
Let's get into it. Yeah.
So, as everyone who listens to this podcast probably knows, because we're all hockey fans here, the men won the gold last Sunday, I believe. And for 10 minutes, maybe, everyone was really excited for them, really happy that, they hadn't won a gold in like 46 years, blah, blah, blah. And then videos started coming out from the locker room celebrations of the men celebrating with Kash Patel, who is the FBI director currently, and everyone was like, what the hell is he doing in there? That doesn't make any sense. Then people are starting to complain about, not just the affiliations of this man, but like, why is he at the Olympics? He's the FBI director. Why is he using our tax dollars to go on some joy trips to go watch the US men's hockey team at the Olympics or whatever? And so, like, people are just like getting mad at this. And then another video comes out of Trump being on the phone and talking to these guys, congratulating them on the win, and then inviting them to the White House. And then where all of this starts spiraling even more is that Trump makes a joke about having to invite the women's team as well, otherwise he'll be impeached, blah, blah, blah. And the whole room erupts in laughter. And it's not like a awkward, like, haha, that's so funny. Everyone sounds like they thought it was really funny, right? And so naturally, everyone's going to get upset. Like, why are you making fun of the women? They just achieved the same thing you did, and they've done it like more recently than you and more than you. They've medaled in every single Olympics that they've played in, and y'all haven't medaled in how long? So people are outraged online, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like Quinn and Jack were asked about it at some point, I think the following day or 2 days later. They don't apologize. They double down. They're saying like, oh, it's too bad that people make things so political, that we're going to the White House, blah, blah, blah. We didn't mean to laugh at the women's like that. Like, we respect them, whatever. And their mom also was asked about it because she obviously helps with the women's team. I forgot what her job is there. She's a coach or something. I don't even care anymore. But she says basically the same thing. It's great what the men and the women have accomplished, blah, blah, blah. And she keeps like reiterating the men and the women, the men and the women, and it's like, okay, but we're more focused on the women. Like, why do you keep bringing up the men? But she also didn't like apologize or just like speak up or stand up for the way that they treated the women. So everyone was like, ooh, because the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And then the media starts asking the women about their reactions, right? And I think I can't remember the first time I heard Hilary Knight speak out, but she was interviewed for, what is this?
So the first that I saw her speaking out about it was during the Seattle Torrent
Okay.
presser. But I also did see that she was on some Sports Center.
Okay.
She was being asked about it, and quote, she says, "I think this is a really good learning point to really focus on how we talk about women, not only in sport but in industry. Women aren't less than. Our achievements shouldn't be overshadowed by anything else other than how great they are." So this is in reaction to that phone call that you had already made mention of that occurred in the locker room. And, here's the thing. Like, this whole week, this has really been like the only talk that's been happening. I already mentioned we should be celebrating the gold medal achievements of both the men and the women from the U.S. team. And unfortunately, that wasn't the case. It was the moment for the men was not only did Guerin allow the director of the FBI into the locker room, and let's let's step back for a moment and be. I'm just gonna lay out the table here of like, okay, let's say you're a player in that locker room. I'm sure you didn't have a say in Cash Patel coming into the locker room, but you do have a say in how you react to it. And even if you were one of those folks that did laugh, if you then several days later get asked about it or on your own accord decide to put out a statement, that is the next step you should do. If you in fact did not feel that way, if you do in fact respect your women counterparts on the US men's team, which I don't think that they don't respect them, but the word salad that was coming out of so many of these men's mouths was beyond exhausting, to the point of like why we're not even going to highlight hardly any of those statements, because there's nothing of value in there. We already get that you respect them, that you showed up to their games, that you did. And it's like they're kind of saying it in a way of like, here are the receipts. Like, I can't be misogynistic. I went to go watch the women play. I can't be misogynistic. They're my friends. I have a mother. I have a sister. I have a wife. Like, we get all that. You don't need to say all of that. You need to say, I'm sorry. We should have reacted a different way. My bad. And granted, there were a number of folks that said that. But then it falls short.
It took like 5 days to hear the first "I'm sorry." It just felt really weird that these men were coming on explaining themselves, but there was no apology. The first one I heard was from McAvoy. He's like, "I'm sorry that, we laughed and blah, blah, blah." But at the same time, it didn't really feel very genuine because he still went to the White House, And that's another thing we'll get into, but...
Yeah. So it's like you said, it took several days. It's like pulling teeth. I don't need your word salad. I don't need your receipts of showing that you went to all this stuff. At the end of the day, you were still in the room and you still laughed at this misogynistic joke. And if you were uncomfortable in that situation, which I have been in many uncomfortable situations, by default, if I'm in a room full of strangers, I have social anxiety. I say some of the weirdest shit. And then I spiral after because I'm like, why did I say all that? Because I'm nervous. Right. I don't do well with a bunch of strangers, with a bunch of small talk. I get incredibly weird. So more times than not, I say nothing. I sit there, I stand there, I wait for something that I give two shits about. I wait till I'm maybe like one-on-one chatting with someone and not having to put on any sort of like performance. So I get it. I 100% get that if you laughed in that situation, and then thinking seconds later, like, oh, oops, like, why am I laughing about that? Like, I respect women. Like, why am I laughing about that? Then all you have to do is 4 or 5 days later, when you get asked about it, just say you're sorry.
Right. And that's the thing, right? Like they did it for so long. Okay, so I do want to talk about a little bit of the hypocrisy of everything, of the men supposedly being sorry that they laughed at the joke or that it was taken that way, or I think my favorite quote, my favorite quotes coming out of it was that they didn't understand why everyone was making it so political. It's like the moment you mention the President of the United States, you are making the conversation political. I don't understand why that's not connecting in your head. But so before all this was going down, I saw some people feeling a bit of admiration for Jacob Slavin. I don't know how to pronounce his name, and I really don't care at this point because he has a black daughter. Okay, and every time they take pictures with her, whatever, she has her hair done at like she's a little. She looks like she's like 3, maybe 4, and she's has her hair braided, whatever. Her hair is always present, like done as a little black girl, right? It's not, they're not doing it, making her hair, straightening it or nothing. So people are like, wow, they really are learning and they know how to take care of her. He spoke out during the George Floyd protests, and on his Instagram posts. And on his Instagram, he posted, "These aren't my own words, but they come from a good friend of mine, and I know it's a lot to read, but take the time to read it. My wife and I hate that it took having a black daughter to open our eyes to the racism and injustices that go on in our world and our country. We especially hate that what went on in our own hearts, but it did. We are by no means perfect and are not claiming to know everything, but we are committed to continuing to learn and stand with people of color in fighting against those injustices and make our world a safer and better place." So this is a photo of him with, I don't know who this black man is, but I'm assuming this was at a George Floyd protest. They're holding up a sign that says, "Labor demands justice for George Floyd." And then someone also screenshotted that he has I'm assuming a nonprofit, some organization that he either founded or he joined, called Fight for Freedom. And in their Instagram bio says, "Join Jacob and Kylie Slavin in the fight against human trafficking by supporting the International Justice Mission. Follow as we raise $1 million." And so I bring this up because how are you saying you are in the fight against racism, you are in the fight against human trafficking, and you still go to the White House knowing the things you know about this man, what he's been accused of, like the things you see, like this man is racist and this man is a pedophile. And he has been, and it's okay. Anyways, there's too much information to ignore the fact that this man in the White House is the man that he is, and you still act excited and proud to go visit when he invites you there. So the hypocrisy I just don't understand it, but at the same time I do, because he is just a white man who doesn't understand anything, because he's rich, he is privileged, and it all makes sense, right? So like all these players who people thought were fighting the good fight within the NHL, like Charlie McAvoy, with supporting women so blatantly, this guy with all this stuff, and whoever else has spoken out about certain things, whatever. The fact that you still go to the White House, you're excited, you're laughing, you're pointing at him when you see him, when you walk. Also, it's the State of the Union, and this is not the place to have the gold medal winning men's hockey team at. This is what there's just so many problems. Anyways, I'm losing my train of thought here because there's just too much happening. But
well, I'll jump on the train and I'll talk a little bit about my feelings about that. Before we hopped on, I made mention of, I'm not the The thing that we're frustrated with is not so much, okay, here's this tier system. The White House visit, out of the three things that I'm frustrated about, is at the bottom of that. Like, I'm not surprised that these guys went to the White House. Like, if we were in far less polarizing times and there was a Republican president in there, a very, go back 20 years, we're just like, wow, what were we complaining about then? A Republican president was in the White House. I understand to an extent that it is this opportunity, a very unique opportunity of a lifetime. We already talk in length about the brotherhood in hockey, how it is like peak levels comparison to other men's sports. Like, yeah, I'm sure they all wanted to go because they achieved this as a team. You want to have this experience with your teammates, yada, yada, yada. And in less polarizing times, I wouldn't have a problem with you going to the White House and checking the hand of the president and walking around and getting that experience and whatever. But we are in a polarizing time right now. This is not your average president. This is a dictator. And despite all that, the White House visit is still at the bottom of my list of things that frustrated me this week. If it were just the White House visit, like the Florida Panthers had, like a month or so ago, I moved on with my day. Of course the Florida Panthers went to the White House. What I didn't enjoy was Matthew Tkachuk licking the boots of dictator-in-chief. That was a moment, but I'm also not surprised that it was Matthew Tkachuk. So, we roll along. But the thing that is at the top of my list that frustrated me all week, we've already talked about how they laughed at the women's hockey team. And they can't even, it's just pulling teeth for them to acknowledge that, to say they're sorry, to say that, it was wrong for them to do it. And even the few people that did do that still attended the White House and went to the State of the Union.
Right.
So none of that matters to me what you said, because you still went. The thing that is at the top, the second part of my list, is the State of the Union, because that is a very, very political thing. And for you to come out and be talking about how other people are making it political, you sat in the State of the Union.
Right.
You are such an idiot, which actually reminds me of a certain idiot that I need to highlight, Austin Matthews.
Yes, please.
Okay, Austin Matthews did not go to the State of the Union, but Austin Matthews had a very, very disappointing response and talking about how, I don't like to, get political. Bro, you have a tattoo. And not just any tattoo.
Wait,
Martin
pause.
Luther...
Yes, Martin Luther King Jr. tattoo. Austin Matthews did go to the White House, but he didn't go to the State of the Union.
I'm pretty sure he didn't go to the State of the Union, because there were a couple of guys who didn't go to the State of the Union.
But they were still at the White House.
Yes.
Oh,
he still went to the White House, but the next day was the State of the Union.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure, maybe fact check me, I'm pretty sure I read that Austin Matthews did not go to the State of the Union, but that does not negate the fact that he still went to the White House, still had a BS response, and his chest tattoo says, "The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy." And maybe bro just can't put two and two together because maybe when he looks in the mirror, the font is backwards and he
Stop.
can't read backwards.
Oh, that's
I
funny.
just I just find it so incredibly stupid.
Right. I think for
Like you are
me,
walking hypocrisy.
yeah, I think for me, what one of the most disappointing things about him attending was that he is half Mexican. And while I know that he doesn't really talk about it unless asked in this league, it's still incredibly infuriating is the word I'll use. And dude, it's just so disappointing because you see what this fucking administration is doing to your people here in this country, and you still don't care enough to make a stand, you know? And it's like a part of me wanted to be excited that, oh, the first Mexican American who captained the USA team wins a gold medal with this country. And I, it was like a a split second of a thought before everything was ruined, you know? So it's this sport always just finds a way to disappoint us in the biggest ways. And I'm finding after this week, I'm finding it really hard to be a hockey fan right now, or at least for the men. um, yeah, like I didn't know there were a few guys that didn't attend the State of the Union. I did hear about the 5 players that didn't make the trip to the White House, which was like Kyle Connor, Jake Gensel, Brock Nelson, Jackson Lacombe, and Jake Ottinger. And people immediately, when those names were released, were really excited. Like, yeah, these guys know what's up. And it's like,
Nope.
no, that's not what's
Nope. Don't
happening
don't
here.
give them the benefit of doubt just because because then they were asked about it. And again, I at a certain point I stopped reading responses because just so many word salads, disappointing left and right. So I can't tell you if any of them will get any of our golf claps or something. But there were a number of them that said I would have gone, or they didn't say anything at all, which, you know what, that's fine. But yeah, just because they didn't go doesn't mean you get to be like, oh, finally we have some guys that we can like celebrate and
Yeah.
who stood up. Like, no, don't give them any benefit of doubt.
Unless they themselves say so, do
Yeah.
not put words in their mouths because
Yeah,
these men don't deserve it.
because that's exactly how I felt when it was shown who was going, who wasn't going. It's like I texted that to a couple of friends of mine. I'm like, I can't even give them the benefit of doubt. The ones that are not going, you're gonna have to tell me why.
Right. I think it was just like their agents that were like, you can't go to this, you have to go and report to your team, you know? It was not because they wanted.
That, or they've been gone for several weeks. Maybe they just wanted to go home and see their family. I mean, it was like a 2-day event. There were games coming up and whatever. So maybe that's their priority. Maybe it was something related to games, agents, whatever. We don't know. All we can go on is what they tell us.
Right. I think I want to take a quick break here to do our ad read, and then we can continue this very annoying conversation. So, sponsors DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, is built for the fastest game on ice. With player props and live betting, every shift, every shot, every save gives you options to get in the game with DraftKings Sportsbook. New customers bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code XXX, that's code XXX, to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org on behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas. Wager Tax pass-through may apply in Illinois, 21 plus in most states, void in Ontario, restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required for additional terms and responsible gaming. Resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer, copyright 2026 NHL. All rights reserved. So let's see what's on the money line for tomorrow on Monday. Blackhawks versus Mammoth playing with a... Let's do the puck line today. It's a plus 100 for the Blackhawks and a negative 120 for the Mammoth. The Winnipeg Jets and the Sharks are going to be playing a plus 205 for the Jets, a negative 250 for the Sharks. That's so sad. The Blues against Wilds, Blues a negative 130, a plus 110 for the Wild. Panthers and Islanders, plus 170 for the Panthers, negative 205 for the Islanders. There's a bunch of games tomorrow, so I'll just stop there. Go ahead and, if you haven't already, download the app, place your bets, do your thing, enjoy the games. Yeah. Okay, so continuing on with this conversation, I think I do want to highlight when Hilary Knight was asked about it at the Seattle Torrent presser. She and Alex Carpenter did have good quotes that came out of there. I don't have Hillary's pulled up right now. If you
Hers says, they were, asked about the comment made by Trump, and Hillary said, I thought it was sort of a distasteful joke, and unfortunately that is overshadowing a lot of the success of just women at the Olympic carrying for Team USA and having amazing gold medal feats. And then Alex Carpenter was asked about
the Flava Flav invitation.
The Flava Flav invitation that we'll highlight in a little bit. Alex said it was definitely super special after everything that's been going on around online, to have someone step up like that and really go to bat for us. And, we're incredibly frustrated that this is definitely overshadowing the women's success. And that's why we're extra frustrated that the men can't even wrap their heads around that. They're just all off in their little bubble. They're going on about how many women are in their lives and all the receipts that should justify why they don't have to say sorry. And this is a whole, the way that boys are raised, the way that boys are uplifted, the way that they don't have to apologize for anything, the way that the men's side of this sport, from by the time you are at any point skill-wise in your development, that becomes the focus of your entire trajectory of your life. The way that these guys, if they do want to make hockey, like pro level hockey, their reality, the way that they go off to billets, the way that they're away from their family, the way that they're isolated into this bubble with the rest of the guys who think the way that they do. They don't, and then if you're so skilled, you don't have to really think outside of that bubble. Like if you're continuing to be successful, why do you ever need to step out of that? I don't remember where I was going with that, but I do continue to want to highlight some other things that were said in response to everything that's going on. Megan Rapinoe, outspoken queer woman who has helped so much to uplift women in sports. Her and Sue Bird, power couple. On their podcasts, they were obviously talking about this whole old deal, and Megan Rapinoe said, I know what happens in those locker rooms. People get brought in, you have no say, you have the president on the phone, you get yourself wrapped up in the moment. For me, the choice point is like, I would have never, as a captain or leader of my team, that would have been clear to our staff. Those people would never be allowed in our locker room.
Yeah, I think
Um,
the difference is that Megan Rapinoe is smart. These guys, like, uh, they just do
Quinn Hughes
whatever.
brain. Quinn Hughes brain.
No, right. They
Jack
just do.
Quinn brain. Jack Quick brain. If
They do.
if you're not watching the YouTube, I'm clapping my hands together and it goes right back to that monkey just going away in their head. No, nothing going on. No thoughts. No thoughts.
They just do whatever feels right to them in the moment. They don't care about the consequences afterwards because they know that other people are going to pick up their mess, right? No one holds them accountable. They're coddled. It is what it is. But like Megan Rapinoe, a lot of women have to be really smart about how they present themselves in the public because women are scrutinized no matter what, right? It doesn't matter which side you're on. There's going to be something that someone's going to pick on them for. But I like how she sort of describes like if in her locker room because she was the captain of the U.S. Women's soccer team and or was she captain at in Seattle?
I believe so.
Yeah, so she understands the
If
power that
anything,
she
she is a leader. She's
right.
been a leader even in times where she herself may not have been, ward of the sea or whatever. We know that there are multiple leaders in every locker room. Megan Rapinoe has continuously led by example.
Yeah, and I think she just understands the power that she holds as one of those leaders and what she can do to like um relay messages up to, the coaches, the staff, whoever's above her. And I don't think the hockey men necessarily know that as much, or they don't care or think about these things because they're in a bubble, they all think the same, so they don't really care. But I think one thing that I'm picking up on is that hockey men are always talked about as if they're like these tough guys, they played through all these injuries, blah blah blah, nothing can like bring them down. And these guys are some of the most spineless men on this planet because they don't speak up when it matters. It's so crazy. Although this is a good segue to talk about our friend Kurtis Gabriel because he is one of the very few guys who have spoken up when things mattered most and like without the influence of a Connor McDavid or an Austin Matthews. He posted a couple of videos kind of explaining his thoughts on what happened and what he would do in those situations. One of them, I think he was talking about his point of view of playing in the league. Yeah, so his perspective on how he saw the whole situation of the men laughing at the women, and he's like, before he was traded or was he drafted by the Wild? He ended up playing in Iowa for a bit in the minor league, and he talked about how that was such a culture shock for him because you know he like he would say or laugh at certain jokes and some people would bring attention to it and it was like it was so new for him, because this is the culture he was brought up in, and that's around the time where his mindset started to shift because, he noticed people talking bad or joking about the LGBTQ community or women, very misogynistic comments and jokes and things. And he understands that these men really respect these women on the women's teams, but he also understands not really making the connection with how these jokes come off to the outside world. And so his argument in the first video was like, if you respect these women, that you speak to them in a different way behind closed doors, behind the cameras, whatever. Why not say that publicly? Why is it so hard for you to apologize? And so it's the same thing that we're saying here, right? Like, it shouldn't be so hard to apologize and backtrack whatever the hell you said or did if you truly respect these women. In his other video, I can't remember. Let me see if I can.
He essentially calls out how if those guys were to step up and say they're sorry, not go to the White House, not do all these things, that if you truly want to stand on your principles, you have the power to do that because you're Olympians, you're these elite superstars at the highest level of the game. You're well off. You you're not risking as much as someone like from his perspective, where he opened up this second part of his Instagram reaction to what was going on, where Kurtis was a fourth line grinder. He, if anything, maybe got max 5 minutes of ice time every day. Probably spent, from our experience from when he was a Shark, spent majority of his time in the press box or up and down from the AHL, he was risking a lot by speaking out, by not just putting his head down and playing the game and considering his own livelihood. Kurtis knew what he was doing and he still was outspoken. Of course, Kurtis continues, and on top of that, Kurtis, he talks about how he's been in situations where you misstep and then you have to reevaluate, what am I doing wrong? And then if you decide when you're caught up in that moment and you're offended and you no longer want to do the thing that you're standing on principle on, that is going to have a reaction to the folks that you've been telling this whole time that you respect. You need to continuously learn and evolve, and that takes a lot of humility. It takes a lot of empathy. It's not an easy journey, even with us, it's not like we're perfect. We continuously have to reconsider how we think about things and have conversations with folks from other walks of life, and in a nutshell, that's kind of what Kurtis was talking about, is that he from his perspective, everything that he was doing, he was risking a lot for him to continue to stay in the NHL. He did not have the skill set, the shielding, the comfort of being a superstar like an Austin Matthews, like a Matthew Tkachuk, like a Brady Tkachuk, who are all captains of their respective teams. If they were to say, I'm not going to the White House, I'm not going to the State of the Union, I'm sorry that I said, that I laughed at our women counterparts, I respect them, will be just fine. I almost guarantee they will be just fine.
Right. I think it's been proven time and time again that these people care more about the skills on the ice than what happens outside of hockey. While everything was going on and people were curious how the women were reacting, I think we would like to highlight Felicia Wenberg, Alex Wenberg's wife, Felicia. I think we've known for a while that she's pretty progressive. She's the one that kind of opens Alex's eyes on social issues and informs him on things, because he's also admitted that all he does is think and breathe hockey most of the time. And so she actually has him thinking. And so when all of this was going on, she reposted a post on Instagram on her stories from an account called Still We Rise. And it was a tweet from the Greg Murray that says, Dear U.S. hockey men's team, I understand you were caught up in the moment, but to laugh at the joke that he has to invite the women's gold medal team, who did exactly what you did, but with less support and resources at every step of their lives and careers, you should apologize to them and to the rest of the women in your life and ours. Your mothers are watching, your sisters are watching, your daughters or future daughters are watching. History is watching. This is a quote from Laura Gassner-Otting. And I think I also seen a bunch of similar posts like this, and a lot of the women's players were liking these posts, like the women's US Olympic team. And so like they're seeing all this going on as well, and I'm just curious to know how that sort of played out because like SNL, Hilary Knight and Megan Keller were there, and they were still hugging the Hughes brothers, whatever, like nothing happened, like they were fine, and they still seemed like loving to each other. But you have to wonder like what goes on through their process of all this going on. Okay, and so now for the fun stuff. I think like a day or two after that phone call happened and Trump actually invited the women to the State of the Union or whatever, they declined. They put out a statement that said, we appreciate and are grateful for the invitation, but, we have scheduling conflicts, whatever, whatever, whatever. And when I first read it, I was like, you could have just said you don't want to go. Why do you have to make these excuses? But whatever, it's a formal thing. And I also wouldn't be surprised if some of the women wanted to go as well. Like I'm not going to give the women the benefit of the doubt either. But Flava Flav did tweet out and he was like, hey, let me throw you a real party. let me do something for you. So he tweeted about this, kind of just saying, if there's any sponsors who want to, or like any companies who want to sponsor this, I want to get like hotel rooms, a venue, really good food for them. Like I really want to celebrate these women. And it all started coming together really quickly. A bunch of brands tweeted, like JBL Audio was like, we'd love to keep the vibes going with some JBL gear for Team USA. Stanley brand, the team will need to stay hydrated in that Vegas heat. We'd love to send them some swag for this iconic crew. So just like all these brands wanting to send and help and whatever. And like, this is good for their business too. So what do they have to lose? But they did finally end up setting a date for the celebration for these women. It's going to be in July, the 16th through the 19th. So it's like a whole weekend. It's not just one day or like whatever. And it's going to be in Vegas at the MGM Resorts. And it doesn't seem like they've put out too many details, but like we had mentioned, Alex Carpenter said that she was really excited about the invitation and like they're going to finish up their season and then go celebrate how they want to celebrate with people who actually appreciate them and want to celebrate them. So, yeah, some good stuff there. What is this?
Yeah, I wanted to just add one more comment in regards to the women's statement. And, as you said, yeah, like with the men who decided not to go with the White House, my initial reaction was like, that's an interesting statement. But I do appreciate taking some time away to really because in the whirlwind of everything that was happening, I got really, really defensive of everything that I was reading. And Kurtis did highlight that, I think he was talking specifically, no, I think he highlighted both the guys who decided not to go to the White House and how we should not make assumptions about, it's because they're standing on principle. Like, no, let's not give them any benefit of doubt in regards to that until we know. And then he also mentioned how he has talked to, a women's pro hockey player and how she's mentioned in regards to that statement about how women are always having to be smarter about the way that they handle things. And, of course, Megan Rapinoe, as we mentioned, has always been outspoken, has never backed down, has been, leading the charge. But, going back to how so much of this has overshadowed the women's celebration, I think, as mentioned with what, Curtis's conversation with that women's player about, it kind of also feels like they don't want to deal with any sort of like backlash of if they were to go in on it hard. Now, granted, like you said, there's probably some women on the team who would have been really interested in going. I don't want to necessarily get into any statements that I've seen from women that I've kind of thought like, okay, sure, whatever. Because at the end of the day, they should be celebrated and highlighting their success, and that got derailed by all of this nonsense that are on the men for doing that. It is not everyone else's reaction. It is not we're making it political. It is you. It is you.
Right.
Sorry, not sorry. It's on you. And then, Flava Flav comes in here and is going like, hey, I want to throw you all a party. And not just the women's hockey team, but all women, come on out to this party that I'm going to put together in this Instagram post. He also mentioned, so impressed and blessed from all these brands reaching out to support. Thousands and more companies offer to donate product, and my team's going to get to it. But if you are a billion-dollar company, we don't want a product donation. We want you to sponsor these women and athletes. 100%.
Absolutely. Right. I love that Flava Flav is doing this for the women. I don't want to put him on a pedestal either, because he has his own set of problems.
Right.
But it is nice that someone is stepping up to celebrate them and all women athletes. Okay. Wow. Maybe we can finally start segueing out of this very stressful conversation a little bit, but you can start bringing in your favorite, Braden Holtby.
Yeah. So with all of this crazy whirlwind that we've had to deal with as, hockey fans, the first thing I thought of, or the first person I thought of with the whole laughing at the distasteful joke that Trump made, the guys going to the White House, they're going to the State of the Union, they're fucking ass word salads. I thought back to, God, I miss Braden Holtby. I miss him so much. And for folks that are maybe new to our podcast or not familiar with this, this happened several years ago. Braden and his wife, Brandy, are incredibly outspoken allies, not only for the queer community, but also equality and all that good stuff. He was invited to the HRC's national dinner back in 2018, and he made a statement that I really, really feel that is important that we just play this clip. And he's done everything that you would want a player to do in this situation, but also we don't expect them to ascend to the Braden Holtby level. But the fact is that if you are thinking, well, they're concerned about, their careers, their contracts, blah, 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 whatever. Braden Holtby is the Stanley Cup goaltender for the 2018 Washington Capitals.
He was doing just fine.
Just fine.
Okay. This is about a minute and a half of video, so.
My wife Brandy and I celebrated our honeymoon in San Francisco. And while wandering through the Castro district, we happened upon the San Francisco Human Rights Campaign Action Center and Store, located in Harvey Milk's old camera shop, actually. And we loved meeting the staff and learning about the work of the incredible organization. We left the shop with 2 HRC bumper stickers, and both put them on our cars and proudly wore them on there. And a friend of ours spotted they had 2 HRC stickers on our car and invited us to this national dinner probably 4 years ago now. We were so moved by the stories we heard and inspired by the love in the room that we joined the Federal Club. Brandy and I are proud to support HRC, and we're proud to stand with all of you. And I'm proud that 3 of my teammates are here with me as well. We worked hard to bring the Stanley Cup to Washington, D.C. and we take all of you on that journey with us. And we are proof that supporting LGBTQ equality is a winning decision, and we're honored to stand here with you in the fight.
Braden Holtby and his wife, Brandy, they went out of their way to go to the Castro. And I think this is a very important distinction to make, because a lot of times you see these guys doing things as they relate to like their team events, and that being the platform that it ends up being highlighted on, whether or not they're doing it in relation directly with their team. But I think it's very important to, highlight the fact that they did this in their own time. They made the decision that they want to go out to San Francisco, walk around, specifically the Castro. And if you're not familiar with the Castro is, it's just basically like gay town in San Francisco. The exclusive gay town to the bigger gay town of San Francisco. And they specifically walked into an HRC, which is where the headquarter shop is. This is in their personal time. They're not doing this on behalf of the Washington Capitals. Like, the camera crew wasn't behind them being like, look at what we're doing, blah, 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 blah. And then deciding to put HRC bumper stickers on your car, that is a symbol to anyone who sees it, that you are declaring that you are a safe space, that you're donating your time, your advocacy, your platform to raising awareness to the inequalities of the queer community. And then because of that work, he was specifically invited to speak at the HRC dinner event. That is not something that comes lightly. And then, so that happened, 2018. And then, shortly after, because they did win the Stanley Cup that year, Braden Holtby, the Washington Capitals were invited to the White House, and Braden Holtby decided to say, you know what? No, I'm not going. And he was asked about it. I'm going to just read this article. It says, Washington Capitals goalie Braden Holtby will not visit the White House. Speaking to reporters after Friday's morning skate, Holtby said that he was, quote, respectfully declining, end quote, the invitation to travel with the team on their trip to the White House in celebration of the 2018 Stanley Cup win on Monday, and noted that he wanted to, quote, stay true to his values. He goes on to say, my family and myself, we believe in a world where humans are treated with respect, regardless of your stature, what you're born into. You're asked to choose what side you're on, and I think that's pretty clear what side I'm on. It mentions in this article he's outspoken advocate for the LGBTQ plus, rights throughout his career. He's marched in multiple pride parades. He's, as we just shown you, he spoke at the HRC campaign's national dinner. Holtby talked about how, decision was not hard for him to make from the belief standpoint. It was difficult. He said, Holtby added that while the decision was not hard for him to make from a belief standpoint, it was difficult to choose to not be with the majority of his team. Besides Holtby, only forward Brett Connolly publicly turned down the invitation. Connolly had mentioned, that's all I'll say about it. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. It's obviously a big deal, and it gains a lot of attention. I've been in full support of an old teammate that I'm really good friends with, and I would agree with, and a guy who will be back here, I'm sure, by the end of the year. And that teammate that he's referencing is Devontae Smith-Pelly, a Black Canadian who told the National Post that June that he wouldn't go because some statements by Trump are, quote, straight up racist and sexist. Holtby also said, our team, we're trying to take the most professional way we can and give every player the right to choose and stand by each and every one of us, regardless of what you decide. Obviously, I've been a little more outspoken on my views than everyone else, so I feel like it's important for me to stand by that. In the long run, it's not going to affect our team at all. in the full media coverage of his declining the White House invitation. He was asked specifically if his advocacy for the LGBTQ plus community is one of the reasons, or is a reason that's going into when he speaks about, standing on his principles and values. And he did clarify that, yes, it is one of them. Not hard, people. And I don't even need you to say all of what was said so eloquently, right to the point, blah, blah, blah. And again, we just go back to the problem started with, you couldn't say sorry to the women. doesn't even have, the White House and the State of the Union thing just adds to this shit pie. But it starts with the bare minimum. All I'm asking you to do is just say you're sorry. And if you wanted to go a step further, you could decline the White House. Look at what Braden Holtby did. Brett Connolly did. Brett Connolly mentioning, in that it's because, hey, Devontae Smith-Pelly was my teammate. I'm doing it because, hey, I like this guy. And you don't like him. So it's so simple. It's so simple. So I just wanted to highlight that for anyone who was not aware of Braden Holtby. I mean, unfortunately, he is no longer playing, injuries and whatnot. But Braden and his wife, Brandy, are really the bar at this point for me.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if you saw that Bill Guerin did put out a statement as well regarding this.
I didn't read it. Too much didn't read.
Right. He says, it's so... Okay. He said, people react to everything nowadays. The most important thing, and the guys have all said this in their interviews, we were in lockstep with the women's team. There was nothing that was set out to be political. There was nothing that was meant to harm anybody, but people take it that way. What I can tell you is that I'll just say our group, we have unconditional love for our country, and what we did was for everybody. That's a lie. Because no, you didn't. This wasn't for everybody.
That's a fancier word salad. That's got like some high quality dressing on top of it, but it still means nothing.
Yeah, and I think it's just extra disappointing for me too, because again, he's half Latino, right? And it's like, you can't do better. Like, you're the GM of Minnesota. You see what's going on in your state right now, and you just don't care because you're so privileged. It's so
like you said a couple episodes ago. It feels like he has ascended, he has arrived, and he has shut the door behind him.
Yeah, it's just so stupid. Okay, I'm over it. Let's talk about the fun stuff that happened at this Olympics. So while the men were eating cheeseburgers at the White House, the women actually, to celebrate their gold medal win, I believe, or was it just because they were there? It was a women's hockey team. I think it might have been before they won their gold medal, but the women did get to hang out with Stanley Tucci in Milan. They gifted him a U.S. jersey. They looked like they had a great time. They had a meal together. It looked delicious. Yeah, I feel like the women are just winning, It says lunch was at the Ristorante Ratana, where the chef hand-prepared a pumpkin risotto served to the group outside on the restaurant's patio, where they traded questions, laughs, and skating tips. The group was in agreement at the end of the meal. It was the best meal they've had in Milan. Anyways, we love Stanley Tucci. He's great. He treated the women to this meal. Well, they all had a meal together. It looked great. And then my fave thing that came out of this Olympic, or one of my favorite things that came out of this Olympics, this collaboration between Layla Edwards and Megan Thee Stallion. Did you watch the full video, the 7-minute video? Ugh, so good. It was like, okay, so this is basically the same where Megan Thee Stallion is having a meal with Layla Edwards. They go to a restaurant. I can't remember what this one is called. It's not in here, but they're being served all of these different meals, and Megan's chatting it up with the guy serving them, asking Layla questions about what it's like to have to juggle school, being an athlete, and I forgot what the other thing was. But she's doing a lot, right? Oh, and the Olympics, duh, because she was in the Olympics. And like just having won, whatever. Their vibes are so good. They're so fun. Um, I love Megan. Like, I don't know what else to say about this woman. She's so inspiring. She's inspirational in many different ways. And Layla seems like a great girl. Like, she's so fun and laid back, and she's living life, you know? I'm excited to see what team she ends up playing for. I might become a fan of that team.
Yeah, I just loved everything about this interaction between the two of them. If you haven't checked out the full video, go. I believe it's on Megan's YouTube page. Layla, huge fan of Megan Thee Stallion. Just as you mentioned, their vibes were just perfection. Like, this is what we should have been talking about from the get go, and then men. So but I mean, yeah, it just everything about it is so great. The way that I loved every time Layla started cracking up because she has the cutest laugh. It is just so genuine. And then she's talking about like going to the club, and Megan's like, oh, like, no, you're supposed to, like, I believe in, going to school and, like,
Drinking
but
water.
wink, wink, nudge, nudge, like, we'll see you at the club,
Right.
but I mean, Megan, despite her rise to fame, a couple years back, it was highlighted that she still decided, what, I still want my education. I still want to be this example for young girls and, folks who are looking up to me. Like, I want to show them that, like, you can have this success, but then also you should strive for other things in your life to be successful, not just this one thing. And I'm sure is already a huge fan of Layla Edwards. I'm sure if Megan hasn't already gone to any PWHL games, or if they've taken this opportunity to get Megan on board, I'm sure she would do whatever she can to help uplift and celebrate the women's side of the sport. Yeah, I just loved everything about it. It was great.
I might go watch it again after this. It's so fun. I just want to be their friend, you know? And it, like, this was kind of mentioned in the beginning, but we'll highlight it here too, where Hilary Knight is newly engaged to her girlfriend, Brittany Bowie. Bow?
I think it's Bo, who is a Olympic speed skater.
Yeah, she was asked about it, and Hillary said she couldn't think of a better place to propose to her than at the Olympics because that's where they met. And I was like, "Aw, y'all are so gay." There's pictures of her proposing and them embracing each other, excited, with Brittany showing off her ring, and it's really cute. We love here. In other women's hockey news, the other day, the Seattle Torrent was playing the Ottawa Charge. No, that sounds wrong.
Toronto Specters.
Oh, Toronto Specters. And they were playing at Climate Pledge Arena. Is that where they usually play?
I think so. I mean, right now they're trying to, grow the sport with their takeover tour thing, but I believe that's where they will primarily play out of.
Okay, so a few days ago, they were playing at Climate Pledge against the Specters, and they sold out the whole arena. It was a sold out crowd of 17,335 people. It set a new record for the largest attended women's hockey game in the United States, which, that record kept getting broken every time there was like a new women's game going on. And so now Seattle is holding that record, which is really exciting to see because that's a big arena, and they all were there to watch women's hockey.
And that's an expansion team as well.
Correct. And they're not very good right now, is what we should also say, because like I watched that game and it was very slow paced, and
they were in it. They were in it until they weren't. which we can relate to because we follow the Sharks.
Correct. But the universe is trying to tell us to be Torrent fans. We took a quiz and everything. You're so against it. It's so funny. I can't be loyal to a team right now, and no one's really called to me just yet. Like I said, maybe I'll wait to see where Layla lands. But yeah, like I'm trying to keep up with the women's more now. It seems cool. Everything's going great there. Wait, I have numbers. Let me pull this up. Since the Olympics concluded, I believe interest in pro women's hockey tickets jumped 50% after the US women won gold. So they're thriving right now, and it's great to see because they deserve it.
And I think we should also just make mention about how, despite women's hockey being, the thing to go see during the Olympics, there was a time when we didn't have a PWHL. And granted, there have been other iterations previously, the PHF, the NWHL, the CWHL. Like, there have been avenues where women could play beyond college, but they haven't been sustainable. So this is also, adds to the fury that we have, where the women have been, this is history in the making, that the women are so successful, continue to be successful at the Olympics, and now they can take that success and have somewhere that audiences want to continue to watch them. Because before, you could only really watch it if you were in those certain areas where they were broadcasting it, or the level of play wasn't as high as, the what you get at the Olympics. But now they've gone to a place where it's like, you want to continue watching these amazing women? Well, come over to the PWHL, where you can watch it for free on YouTube if you are in the States, or if you can't get it where you get it on TV or whatever, that's fine. Come on to YouTube. You can watch all of our games. It is the accessibility to continue to support women's hockey, to see women's hockey at a very competitive level. We've got you covered. And so I just want to point that out, that not only is it historic for Seattle to break this record, it's historic that Seattle is an expansion team this season. It's historic that Seattle, granted, I'm sure there was a lot of desire for hockey. I mean, they had only recently, like a couple of years, gotten, the Seattle Kraken. So there really wasn't like hockey in this area. And now it just has such a boom over the last, decade. So, yeah, I just need to point that out, because that's how historic this is for. I mean, it really warmed my heart to see Climate Pledge with all of those people.
Yeah, and it was really loud.
Women, kids, men, all walks of life. If you just took a glance at who's sitting there, who's supporting. And even though the Seattle Torrent did not win that game, they were in it, and they were bringing an exciting atmosphere for everyone who came out to watch them. And I'm just so excited for Seattle, for the West Coast. It's just a great moment for women and for the women's side of the sport.
Yeah. I don't know what else there's to say. Like, we're excited to see where women's hockey is going specifically. But I do. Okay, so we'll pivot a bit and want to talk about Bay Area representatives at the golden at the Olympics who won gold with starting with Alysa Liu because she won gold while wearing a gold dress in figure skating. She was a vibe. She was so carefree. She was so happy competing out there compared to how stressed everyone else looked out there. Everyone was really happy about her winning. Um, people say she's an Oakland native. I don't know if she was actually like she skates out here in Oakland. I heard that she might actually be from Richmond, but grew up skating in Oakland. Either way, she represents Oakland.
It's the Bay.
She skates at Oakland Ice, which is one of the Sharks ice rinks out here, which is cool. Oakland has announced that they're going to host a day, like a celebration for her sometime in the near future. They're putting that together. The date will be announced whenever that's set. And then also Eileen Gu, who actually represents China during the Olympics, is actually from San Francisco. And she is going to be what is it called? The something marshal for the Chinese New Year parade coming up in SF. So I don't know. We take pride in like the athletes and anyone who represents the Bay out here. It's just really cool to see, especially these badass women who are successful in their crafts. Yeah. We love to see women winning.
I also wanted to highlight how proud and joyful I was for Alysa Liu because she stepped away from the sport. She stepped away for the fact that she, around the COVID pandemic, when all of the ice rinks shut down, and for the first time in forever long, she wasn't having to go to the rink. And that's when she realized, oh, I actually don't want to go.
Mm-hmm.
And the more time that she spent away from the rink, the more she realized that this was not what she wanted to be doing with her life right now. And she's talked about and she's found a place in the sport again after she took some time away. She realized why she was having those feelings and took matters into her own hands to welcome the sport back into her heart in a way that she could love it again.
Mm-hmm.
And I just loved that when she went out for her skate, that you could really see that. You could see in the way that she moved, the song choice, and the way that when she told the media that she really doesn't care about the medal, you know it's not just, oh, you're just saying that to say that. And like, she genuinely doesn't. She's just like, whatever happens, happens. I'm just happy that, I mean, I don't believe she said these words specifically, but essentially what I got from her talking about where she was mentally is that she's just happy that she's just getting to love the sport and be herself. Because so many times in the past, she realized, oh, I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this because I've just been in this mode to the point where I didn't realize that I actually hated so much of what I was doing, that I didn't want to be at the rink right now, that I hated the song choices, that I hated the way that I was dressed. Like all of this stuff, she didn't have a moment to realize and peel away at the layers and then come back out freer and able to welcome the sport back into her heart again. And I loved that she skated her heart out. I felt sad that that Kaori from Team Japan I was thinking it was either going to be Alysa Liu or her to get gold, and it was heartbreaking to see that she was on the trajectory to have the best and final Olympic skate, because she had already mentioned that she was going to retire after this Olympic cycle, that she was on a trajectory to have her best skate. And at one point she went up to do a jump and it didn't come out the way that she wanted to. I think she was going for like a triple whatever. She didn't complete it, and she came back down, and then when she was done with her skate, she knew the significance of her missing that skill. And at the end of the day, the women just had the most amazing vibe afterwards. They were just celebrating each other. It was an all Asian podium. Loved it. Loved the vibes coming out from the women. And yeah, I just loved it so much.
Yeah, the whole figure skaters vibes were really wholesome throughout the tournament. It was really nice to see. Okay, we are this far into the podcast, and I guess we should mention our faves finally, the Sharks. A couple of nights ago, they hosted their annual Pride Scrimmage, where members of like the Sharks front office will play a scrimmage game against the SF Earthquakes, who, if you are new to this podcast, is a LGBTQ plus team based out in San Francisco. And then Team Trans, which I forget where they're based out of, but you know, they're a hockey team made up of all trans players, and it's really cool. I attended this last year. We were invited. I was able to go, and it was, you know, I would say it was one of my favorite events that I attended last season, because, you know, it really celebrated the queer community. It was done really well, you know, because obviously it's like with these queer teams playing, it's hockey, and it's just nice to see queer hockey players in general, you know, publicly out. It was small. It was like small, intimate vibes or whatever, but it was really nice. Unfortunately, we weren't invited this year, so we didn't get to see what happened. We had a friend who attended. Who told us, like, you know, he usually plays for Team Trans, but he didn't play this year. But he was able to attend the game, and Team Trans was getting their butts whooped by the Sharks team, like 6-0 when he updated us. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, the Sharks haven't really posted about it, other than, you know, announcing that Alex Winberg and Tyler Toffoli were behind the bench for, I believe, for Team Trans and the SF Earthquakes. And then they posted a picture of the puck drop, and with the both of them behind the bench at some point. But that's about it. You know, we didn't hear about like what the scores were. They didn't really announce that it was happening. I didn't know it was going to be happening until the night before, when I saw Shane tweet about it. And I had asked him, actually, like, if he knew why it was being done now and not the week of where they host the Pride game, you know, the Sharks Pride game, like they usually do. And he did comment back and told me that there was like some scheduling conflict, or like the building availability, and also the Sharks' very compressed schedule for the rest of the season. So it makes sense, but I don't know. As much as I love the Sharks hosting this event, you know, it's you don't see any other NHL doing anything like this. They do focus on the queer community and how to support them, and, you know, shine light on all of this and whatever. For me, it felt a little underwhelming because they didn't promote it in any way, and I know it was like an invite only sort of event. But I think it would have been nice to hear about it more than I did.
Yeah, I think there's just a lot of unknowns, and then I also wonder about the feeling in terms of from San Francisco Earthquakes and Team Trans, maybe they're also voicing a feeling of how they wanted things to go about. So I don't really know what direction to kind of feel about it. I think it is nice that they continue to have this event and they work together with those with Team Trans and the San Francisco Earthquakes, and you know, Tyler Toffoli and Alex Wenberg were in attendance, and that is something that they, granted, you know, are doing it in relation to the Sharks, but it also is their personal time that they're
Right.
lending to enjoy this moment with those guys.
Yeah, last year there wasn't a player who attended the scrimmage because they had a game that night as well. But 2 seasons ago, Eklund and Zetterlund did attend, so it is nice to see some players supporting and like, you know, showing their faces at these events because they don't have
And
to.
then, yeah, and then also on top of that, from what we understand, the Sharks don't go, okay, you're gonna have to go because
Right.
blah blah blah. Like they make it a player's choice of, hey, who wants to go and do it, but you don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
They're not forcing players to, okay, this is, you have your annual, you know, give back to the community. You've got to, someone's got to step up to the plate. I don't think that that's anything like that that's going on. And, you know, Tyler Toffoli and, you know, his wife are also putting the work out there and doing what they can to speak out. Same thing with the Wenbergs, and we also already talked about that previously.
Yes. All right, what is this Wardo thing?
Yeah, so I just saw this, you know, very late in the week the other day. I mean, you know, Ward has spent some time with the Sharks in the past. He is now a member of the Vegas Golden Knights, and so this is one of the very few occasions where we mention that at all. But he was gifted. So in Vegas, he was gifted one of the district dozen with his very own sweater. So I did try to find some information about the district dozen. I don't have one that kind of, you know, that I can go off and, you know, give information about it, but it is a black owned movement. I wish there was something that I could. Anyways, but yeah, so essentially he was awarded this jersey by a member from the district dozen cause, and I just thought that was really nice to do in regards to celebrating Black History Month, and also to highlight Joel Ward is just doing amazing stuff with his post-retirement career, and being part of the Vegas coaching staff.
Yeah, I guess they're doing fine over there. It looks like Joel Ward is a part of the district dozen, which is why they gave him his own sweater.
Yeah.
So it's cool. He looks happy. The Sharks also had their Black Excellence night the other night, and that sweater was clean. Okay, so we want to go ahead and end this episode with, I guess, a little bit of an announcement. Do you want to?
Well, before we do that, because March is Women's History Month, we do want to highlight all of the women's professional sports that everyone should really be keeping track of and supporting. You know about the PWHL, which goes on until April 25th. The NWSL will be starting its season coming up here in a couple of weeks, March 13th through November 1st. The League One volleyball is currently in action and continues until April 4th. March Madness is from March 18th through April 5th. The WNBA will be starting in early May 8th through September 24th. The Women's College World Series is May 28th through June 4th. The U.S. Women's Open is from June 4th through the 7th. And the U.S. Open is August 30th through September 12th. So you have your assignments. Go out and check out all of this amazing professional women in sports doing what they do best.
Yeah, I'm gonna try my best to catch as many as I can. Some of these aren't as easily accessible, you know? That's the one thing I really like about the PWHL is like you mentioned, you can't catch it on whatever networks broadcasting in your area. You can watch it on YouTube. It's so easy. Some of these teams got to get on that. Okay, so I think we're going to do a little bit of a restructure on the podcast where we would like to focus a lot more on women's sports, women athletes. We are going to try to focus and highlight more of the PWHL and I don't know, just other women's sports in general. Like we're gonna try to like for me last year I was really trying to keep up with the Valkyries. I really enjoyed it. Those were great vibes. I did attend one game, which was so fun. I'm gonna see if I can do another one this year, whatever. But I think we're gonna calm down a little bit on the men's hockey for a little bit and really uplift and focus on the women for a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'll clarify that we're still going to be talking about the Sharks. We're still covering the NHL in general. I think we are going to be a little more critical of the diversity and inclusion efforts that are made specifically in regards to player focus. I think as a whole, as long as teams during their theme nights, if they're celebrating something and it's giving money back to the community, I think that's a good thing. But specifically with NHL players, just with the whole debacle with the men's U.S. team, specifically disappointing for me was McAvoy and Austin Matthews. We just honestly feel like we have a certain responsibility to just be a little more harder on them in terms of what advocacy looks like, what diversity and inclusion looks like. And there's a lot more genuine efforts being done on the women's side of the sport. And at the end of the day, that is the bread and butter of our podcast, to raise awareness of that stuff. And then on the men's side, it's to be critical of that stuff when something does come down the line and whether it is genuine or performative. But we're still going to be covering the Sharks and the NHL as a whole, as we mentioned, but we are going to platform more of the PWHL. I mean, that's something that I think ultimately we just haven't sat down and really figured out how we were going to go about it. And it's mostly just like a time related thing. Granted, now we have more with the expansion to Vancouver and Seattle, that gives us more opportunity to have games that are happening during times where we can actually put more focus on.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, I mean, because we are a hockey podcast, and while we follow the women's side of soccer and basketball, I think it's just, you know, we could always do a little better with highlighting more avenues to celebrate for the women's side of the sport. So we just wanted to put that out there to let folks know that that's where we came to after this whole week of whiplash and roller coaster ride of
disappointment.
disappointment. Yeah.
It'll be good. We'll be fine. I hope you guys still like the content, so. All right, that's all we have for this week. Thanks for joining us. I've been your host, Ness.
And I'm Jay.
Catch y'all next time. Bye.
Bye.